travelers along the path of the beam. I am known on this level of the tower as Jaime and Fuego, and if it please you, join me here for some more palaver on Hail to Stephen King. That's right, man with all those books you see on that terrifying tower behind me. You can just call me Fuego for short, and I welcome you to the horror show and this twice weekly program that I do here every terrifying Tuesday and scarific, spooktacular Saturday, honoring all things El Rey, all things Sai King, and yes, I just got done doing a very special 119th episode where I handed the reins over to none other than my homeboy Skinner Sweet, who had a whole series of comics adapted by none other than Scott Snyder and Raphael Albuquerque, if I remember his name correctly. Amazing artist that I actually got the chance to interview at one particular point here for this station. But yeah, y'all, he stepped in as I had a show with my band Chiron this past weekend. We were playing Autumn Anarchy at Joe's Grotto here in Phoenix, and yeah, I thought it was kind of cool to have my dude kind of step in and do a live discussion about none other than Mr. Randall Flagg. That's right. And going back and watching it, yeah, I think Senior Sweet did a pretty damn good job. And then also, this is the first time y'all are seeing me here in a week because of the fact that we also last Tuesday put up, actually, so yeah, that'd be a week and a half almost. Last Tuesday we put up a non-spoiler discussion, group discussion between myself and my co-host Cecil Laird and Marsha Parker here on the Horror Show, because all of us reread Pet Sematary this year for a panel that we did, and so yeah, we had a little non-spoiler discussion, but just wanted to remind everybody that at the end of the month we are still doing our big spoilers book club discussion for anybody who took the time here at Hail to Stephen King and in its Facebook group, also called Hail to Stephen King, to read this book. So that's going to be a fun spoilerific discussion live as well with yours truly, so you have that to look forward to at the end of the month here in November. But here in 2018, as we approach the year of 19, which is going to be hopefully huge for Stephen King, I think it is guaranteed to be, with stuff like It Chapter 2 coming out, the remake of the aforementioned Pet Sematary. But we are also celebrating another anniversary, an anniversary this month in November, as a matter of fact, and it's probably my second favorite collection of Stephen King short stories that the dude has ever done, and that is none other than this baby I got right here, Just After Sunset. That's right. So the only collection of stories that I think beats this one, at least personally for me, is Night Shift, and it's followed very closely by Bizarre Bad Dreams. And then afterwards, I mean, there's stuff I enjoy in Everything's Eventual, there's stuff I enjoy in Skeleton Crew, there's stuff I enjoy in Nightmares and Dreamscapes, but the reason I hold this one in such high regard is because the only one that I feel top to bottom, pretty much every story is at the worst solid and at the best amazing, is Night Shift. You know, Bizarre does have a couple weak links here and there, but I think that one is also very consistent and very strong in all of its entries there. But yeah, for me, this one it holds a special place in my heart because I feel like the tone in a lot of ways of many of these stories is very drastically different than a lot that we got from King both before and after. And I've talked passingly about this particular collection of stories before on this program and all of our this being the 120th episode at this point. Holy smokes, that's a lot. But yeah, in the near 2 years that I've been doing this program, I have mentioned this collection quite a few times in my affinity for it. But I'm just going to give a brief breakdown of some of the strongest, and also I'm just going to touch briefly upon every story in here. And so, I mean, as being published in 2008, it was his first collection that was like really soaking up the post 9/11 world in a lot of ways. And so many of these stories they deal, some specifically with 9/11, others just with post-traumatic syndrome, you know, PTSD, and how we all kind of deal with grief or just massive catastrophic instances and stuff like that, but also just the state of the world following everything changing so drastically with American soil being attacked and stuff. And I know this doesn't really resonate quite in the same fashion for a lot of my international viewers and supporters here on Hail to Stephen King, but nonetheless, like, the world changed drastically, you know, post 9/11, and in turn it did in various other areas of the world too, whether it's, you know, just the war on terror and, you know, the fact that terrorism can't be directly linked with a specific nation, even if the US tried to link it with specific nations, at least initially and stuff. Like, bottom line, you can't, it's nearly impossible to go to war on a terror group that has cells like all across the entire planet, as opposed to just the cut and dry, very clearly drawn lines of a war, a battle, a conflict with like another nation or, you know, whatever it may be. And so, yeah, that's where, yeah, the rest of the world with all kinds of horrible things happening across Europe and, you know, various places continuing in, you know, the Middle East and stuff like that. I mean, it's a scary world that we live in this current age of not just, you know, international terror, but also with all the crazy shootings and things that we've had here in the United States, especially in the last few years, which has brought about the discussion of, you know, more gun control and all kinds of stuff like that. But I'm not here to offer any sentiments there. I'm just saying that the world, especially in the 10 years since this, but also, you know, the near 20 since all of this stuff really started kicking into high gear, this was the first collection of stories that I felt like really epitomized that new, slightly cynical and scared outlook on the world. But there's also lots of other crazy king fare in here too that's more of the, you know, standard variety. And I mean, if I was going to say a weakest link in here, I would probably say something like Stationary Bike, which is about this guy who goes to the doctor and it's like, hey, high cholesterol levels, you know, this and that, you need to lose some weight. So he gets his stationary bike, and King has actually talked at length previously about the fact that that's one of his favorite workouts, you know, is jumping on the stationary bike and watching TV. And there's some hallucinatory and, I guess, very vague otherworldly aspects that come into this story, but it's not like a personal favorite of mine or anything. Another one that I think is just like kind of okay, although still pretty damn good, is Ayana. And Ayana is about this guy who's recanting in the early 80s, his father dealing with pancreatic cancer, and he is mysteriously healed when this blind 7-year-old girl comes and gives the father a kiss, and then, you know, more people need to be healed from there. It's a shorter story without really getting too much into it. So, I mean, I'm also not the hugest fan of The Gingerbread Girl, which is actually about to be made into a film. They just announced that earlier this year, but that's one about this girl who's a jogger, and she's in Florida, King's home, away from home. You know, he divides his time between there and Maine yearly, and so she's out jogging, and there's like this abandoned house that people are skeptical about, and she gets terrorized by this guy. It's kind of more of a by the numbers, almost. You can see where a lot of the inspiration for Big Driver, which is one of the novellas that pops up in Full Dark No Stars. So this shares some similarities storytelling-wise to that, and Big Driver has already been adapted with Maria Bello for the Lifetime Network, if I'm not mistaken. I actually just finally ordered my DVD copy of that to nearly complete my King collection. That was like one of the only ones that I didn't have besides the first season of Mr. Mercedes, the 11/22/63 release, and I actually just picked up all of those this week. So my King collection of discs and, you know, films and TV shows and stuff is nearly complete. So, I mean, those would be where I mentioned, like, just some of the stories being a little weaker. And another one that I'm just not the biggest fan of, and it's the oldest story in this collection, reaching all the way back to the 70s, is The Cat from Hell. Cat from Hell was adapted in the Tales from the Dark Side movie, which was the R-rated feature-length spin-off of his buddy George Romero's television series, which was in turn inspired by Creepshow, which he did with Stephen King, which was in turn inspired by their mutual love of the EC comics, like Tales from the Crypt and Vault of Horror, Haunt of Fear. I'm trying to remember all of those, especially after all the anniversary coverage that I did a couple of years ago, covering every single Tales from the Crypt episode. And you can find all of those episodes here on the Horror Show. But they send in a hitman to kill this crazy black cat that's apparently had a hand in the death of a few different people at this rich guy's mansion. And it's a silly story, and it's very it's kind of got a silly adaptation, but I'm not going to talk at length about that because I am actually doing a special anniversary episode for that that entry in Tales from the Dark Side for the short story, which is seeing its anniversary this year. So that's going to be an upcoming King episode. I believe that's going to be it's either the Saturday or next Tuesday's episode here before the month of November is over. But let's start chewing through some of the stories in here that I really genuinely enjoy. It's a weird one, but I honestly love A Very Tight Place, about these two guys who are like feuding on a building site, and you know, they have like a long-term history of just going back and forth, and one of them, they have this fight, and one of them locks the other one in this porta potty, and it gets all knocked over, and he's like sloshing around in all the nastiness, and so he gets basically terrorized by this dude that he's been feuding with for a while. That one is awesome. Another one that is not just incredible, but I think is a little bit, you know, kind of a cut above, is Mute. And Mute is about this this traveling salesman who picks up a hitchhiker, and he tries talking to him, and he just presumes the guy's mute because the guy doesn't talk the entire time. There's also, he may or may not be a very dangerous person, and they keep it vague enough through most of the story before, you know, it's revealed whether that is in fact the case or not. But the one-sided conversation in this short story is fascinating to me, and it's pretty cool. Another one that deals with certain similar King themes that we've seen previously is Rest Stop. And Rest Stop is about this guy who, in his own personal life, he is very, very timid. He's a writer that is just leaving kind of a, I'm trying to remember if it's a speaking engagement or if it was, you know, just a signing or, you know, just a meet and greet or whatever the hell it was. But nonetheless, he's had a little too much to drink at this little soiree, and he's trying to make his way from town to town, and he stops at this rest stop, and he sees only one other vehicle there, and he hears a major conflict going down between this woman and her presumed significant other, and you can tell that it's getting nasty. It's going to go from verbal conflict into something of the physical variety, and his alter ego that he writes as, this pen name of sorts, and this is where you're really seeing the King/Bachman dynamic here. So this story does have similarities to something like The Dark Half, at least, you know, here and there. And so that guy and the characters he writes, like super badass and whatnot. And so he has to basically channel this alter ego of his to step in and avert something really terrible happening as this conflict between this couple is getting physical. And it's interesting. I actually really dig this story. It wasn't a personal favorite when I initially read it, but upon further reads and stuff, as I was taking another look at this book, you know, this month, I was just like, you know, I actually really dig Rest Stop, especially in the duality aspect of it, and in having to channel an inner hero that is only a portion of you, or your inner badass in this case, to, you know, really just swallow your fears and just, you know, be a man and be assertive and everything. It's a pretty solid story. Nothing of the supernatural variety, obviously. Let's jump around a little bit more. So, let me see. So, there is another one here, and this is a good segue, I guess, into the otherworldly post 9/11 accident / you know, PTSD and dealing with grief and stuff like that. So you have something called Harvey's Dream, and Harvey's Dream, it's a very short one. It's like around 10 pages, I think, maybe even less. But this guy has this dream that his daughter dies in an accident, and he recounts it to his wife, and King makes it plain and clear that this is kind of an emotionless, loveless marriage at this point. It's one of those that went past its presumed life expectancy, especially with the, you know, child all grown up and stuff now, and there's just a skepticism from the wife as he's telling this to her, and he's like, it seems so real, and so on and so forth, and, you know, that's a good one without revealing anything, especially since it's of the shorter variety. Another one dealing with this sort of thing is The Things They Left Behind, and The Things They Left Behind is about this guy who narrowly, based on a hunch and a premonition, escaped a building that was going to be smashed during all the World Trade Center, well, yeah, one of the World Trade Center buildings, and, you know, he worked on one of those floors, and there's a lot of people who said that on that particular day in 2001, they had just a bad feeling about going to work that day. This is very heavily documented, you know, amongst all kinds of different press outlets and, you know, short films and documentaries and things like that, and this guy was one of them, but he feels like he is being reminded about, you know, the things that other people left behind, and almost like there's this otherworldly presence trying to contact him and, you know, just send him clues and messages and stuff like that. And, you know, this guy is just overcome with the survivor grief of the fact that, you know, all these people he knew didn't make it, and yet he did. It's a great story. It's got this very otherworldly, eerie, but kind of spookiness to it, which a lot of these stories, you know, Harvey's Dream has those sensibilities. This one, Things Left Behind, has those sensibilities, as does another one called The New York Times at Special Bargain Rates, and this one is about a woman whose husband died in a plane accident, and they kind of keep it vague as to, you know, was he on one of those planes, you know, that was, you know, smashed in Pennsylvania or in DC or in New York or whatever. But she starts getting phone calls from him, and it's presumably like from the afterlife, and he's trying to steer her out of some potentially dire situations and stuff. And so that one is really just borderline creepy to me, in a similar, just kind of eerie, surreal sort of way that, you know, those other two ones, Harvey's Dream and The Things They Left Behind, kind of did. All three, that's like the trio of stories for me that are in the upper echelon of this collection. And then another super short one that I find just super creepy is Graduation Afternoon. And this one is about this, you know, this little rich, you know, graduation party that's going down, and it happens with a big time accident, you know, basically a nuclear attack on, you know, the East Coast, and how these people deal with it without getting into too much detail. And it's very similar to, oh boy, I'm trying to remember the name of one of the final stories that was in The Bizarre Bad Dreams, about this guy and his pet dog, and you know, this neighbor who, you know, radiation is kind of spreading around and stuff. Oh, something Thunder. God, I can't remember it offhand, but that was one with similar themes of like how people would deal with seeing this sort of catastrophic instance transpiring. And, you know, this just more so explores like the initial reactions to the event happening. But it's another short one, but a very effective one, and a very, very good one. And you know, that one could probably be coupled into the same vibe of the previous three that I mentioned, Harvey's Dream, The Things They Left Behind, and New York Times at Special Bargain Rates. I have to mention New York Times at Special Bargain Rates is currently being developed into a television series called Grand Central, although unfortunately there's been no additional information about it beyond that, so we are still waiting. I'm excited though. I think that that's one, much like with Haven or even like The Dead Zone or something like that, they could explore other stories of people who die in a catastrophic accident and them trying to reach out to their family members and whatnot. So now we come to the two best stories in the collection, and the one that's like neck and neck with my personal favorite is, it's actually the only one that's a full-blown novella in this, and it's also the only one that's been, excuse me, never previously released. Every single other story in this was either in a magazine or, you know, somewhere else priorly, but yeah, this one had never seen the light of day before and was exclusive to Just After Sunset, and that is N. Simply N, or maybe it's N period. Yeah, it's N period. But N was also masterfully adapted as a motion comic, and you can find that on iTunes. You can download it if you want. It was also included on a DVD of the special edition of this, which is a perk that I've been trying to track down, because I own the webisodes of that of the motion comic on my computer and stuff in my iTunes, but I don't have like physical copy that I can just throw on one of my players here at home. And, you know, as a avid collector, as you can see by everything behind me, that is something that I definitely want to acquire at some point. But same team that did the motion comic ended up going to Marvel and beefing it up and adding some extra bits to it and finishing it, and there's a terrific hardcover that I own that I urge all of y'all to go and check out and track down. But it essentially boils down to the idea of whether insanity can be contagious. And so there is this guy who goes to a shrink. He's talking about how he's driving around one day to like take photographs and stuff like that, and excuse me, he basically comes upon this field, like kind of up on a hill, but it's all chained up, and, you know, no trespassing and all that, but his curiosity gets the best of him, and he goes and investigates this little hilltop area, and it's got this circle of these tall, slender, black stones, and as he's looking at these black stones, he sees like the most hideous, demonic, frightening faces on each of them, all drastically different, and yet all with a similar sinister nature. And he just gets a weird vibe that this is one of those overlapping areas between worlds. This is King once again exploring those Lovecraftian themes about thinnies and about just overlapping areas where certain different dimensions can kind of, you know, just be there amongst each other. And it's creepy, and it's just really strange how this guy goes and eventually commits suicide, and then the doctor, you know, the shrink that he has talked to about this, starts to gets similar eccentricities that the man, you know, was talking about himself, about counting things and about good numbers and bad numbers and all this different stuff. He ends up going to the field himself, and it's as the idea is passed around and as the madness starts to creep in deeper, it is a very, very unsettling story, and one that I find immensely fascinating. And as much as I really, really recommend the version here, and it's definitely better, but it's done so beautifully visually in that Marvel comic book. If y'all get the chance to track it down, it is seriously this breathtaking painted artwork, and it's probably, I'm eventually going to do a countdown of my favorite Stephen King comic adaptations, which would obviously include this, include the Dark Tower stuff, the Stand stuff. I'll probably take those volume by volume because, you know, both DT and the Stand were like just a collection of different mini-series and stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna eventually get to that, but this is one of the absolute best, just any adaptation, and we're talking like both comic book, screen, you know, both television and you know, film and stuff like that. The adaptation of N that Marvel does is phenomenal, and I urge all of you to track it down. But you know, most importantly, you have to read N here in this collection. And now we come to the story that it's not just my favorite in this collection, but it's in my top 10 for favorite Stephen King short stories of all time, and it's what actually starts out just after sunset, and it's called Willa. And Willa, I would basically best describe, you know, King said that Bag of Bones was a haunting love story. For me, this is a haunting love story, and it's about this guy who was at this train station, and, you know, they're waiting for their connecting, you know, bullet to come through and everything, and he can't find his fiance. And he's like, she wandered off, you know, maybe she went to go get something to drink, and, you know, she's a whimsical free spirit and everything, and I need to track her down. And it's just very strange because everybody else there with him at the station who's getting on the same connecting train is like, no, you can't leave, don't go searching for her, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, are you kidding me? I'm supposed to leave without my lady, without my love? What is wrong with you? And so he ends up leaving, and he goes and he tracks her down into this country bar, and she's just, you know, sitting there watching everybody dancing around, and you can tell immediately that this entire story has a dreamlike just essence and quality to it. And the dynamic between these two is very, it's loving, but it's unique, and it's a little weird, and there's an otherworldly essence to it without spoiling anything, and there's an interesting twist here as well that I think really makes the story 100 times better than it even starts out as. And this is one that I urged Lily to watch, or to read, and she enjoyed the hell out of it. And I think, like, this is one that, like, a lot of my female friends and stuff, and even, you know, whatever, like, most female constant readers and stuff that I have either told about this or that I've, you know, talked to on you know, the Hale group and on, you know, different other Stephen King groups, and even in person at the book signing and stuff like that. This is one that I think a lot of women like, it with good reason, you know? And also, like, if you're a hopeless romantic dude like myself, you know, you will find some merit in that as well. But yeah, Willa this is your haunting love story if you want to, you know, make that comparison. And I'm so much more compelled and impressed with it in comparison with Bag of Bones. And so that is my absolute favorite of all of the entries here in Just After Sunset. Top to bottom, it's only got a couple weak links, you know, once again, Stationary Bike, and, you know, maybe Ayana, maybe Rest Stop to some degree, but I mean, all the stories, even those, you know, I find incredibly solid. Stationary Bike's my least favorite on here, and Willa is my absolute favorite, and all the others in between are tremendous. You've got a great introduction, if I remember correctly, by King, and then there's also some notes about Just After Sunset at the very end where he gives some additional insight into the creative process here and stuff. And so, guys, if you have not read any of these short stories, a lot of CRs disagree with me about how highly I rank this one, but that's the beautiful thing about art, is that it all boils down to personal taste. Art is subjective, and I know a lot of people prefer Skeleton Crew or Nightmares and Dreamscapes or Everything's Eventual to this collection. I personally do not, but hey, I'm not going to fault you if you're not in the same camp as me. But if you are uninitiated with Just After Sunset, I have to implore you so very fervently to check this book out. Now, we get to the next little bit here in the episode today. And the episode today has the second ever unboxing here on Hail to Stephen King that a long time constant viewer, as I call them here on Hail to Stephen King, took the time to send me something. The previous one was my dude Nick Oakes, and much love to him and pretty much everyone in the Hail to Stephen King Ka-Tet. I cannot, thank all of you enough for just the constant dedication and inspiration that you give to all of me, just to further and continue my love and my passion. Not that the fires aren't there. I mean, for God's sake, my name is Fuego, but all of you continue to inspire me when I see how much enjoyment you're getting from either revisiting a book, checking it out for the first time, or if you are just brand new to the path, to the path of the beam, and just, engaging and getting yourself all invigorated with it. So I obviously have to extend a big thanks to Scott Baker, who sent this over to the Infuegotainment offices here, and he even says hashtag Hail to Stephen King, hashtag Hail Ka-Tet, from Batavia, Ohio. So let's see what this is all about that Scott sent over. And, thanks so very much, Scott. You are one of the biggest supporters of not just Hail to Stephen King, but the horror show in general. And I cannot thank you enough, dude, for that, just being kind enough to send me something, man. It was really, really very sweet of you. And I give thanks here, Thanksgiving week, for all of the friends that I have made on Hail to Stephen King. So, oh boy, there is, looks like there is a note as well. So let's see what this has to say. I'm gonna actually read this before I look at what it is. Okay. Hey Fuego, heard you were looking for this, hope it finds you well. A small token of appreciation from one King fan to another. Love the Hail to Stephen King videos. You put a lot of work into them and it shows. Gracias, Scott, you're the man. King's books have been a great positive influence in my life, and your program has played a major part in my returned interest in his books. Say thank you. Long days and pleasant nights, Scott. P.S. Remember, 6 is a fix, but 8 keeps it straight. I think I have an idea what this might be now, and if so, the irony, oh boy, the irony of this could be pretty huge with what I was just discussing here in this episode. Let's see what we have here. Oh my goodness. This could be about as ironic as it gets, guys. After I just mentioned it, you're kidding me, right? You have got to be kidding me. What? Like, did the stars align? This was Path of the Beam shizzle, like, to a T. To a flippin' T, Scott. Seriously? As I'm doing the anniversary, this was not predetermined. You guys just saw me just now breaking this open. I had zero clue what's so flippin' ever. Oh my lordy lord. Oh my lordy lord. Let's check. Oh my gosh. There it is. What irony. What irony, Scott. My God. Dude, you just say thank you, man. Jeez. That is just, I can't even, this is irony beyond my wavelength of thinking right now. This is just insane. Scott, gosh, I gotta get you something, man. I definitely do. Holy smokes. It's like, what do you get for the King fan who has just about everything? Well, you somehow track down for them what I was just talking about. I'm Jesus Christ, and what is this? This fell out of the book. I didn't even see this was in here, Scott. Check that out. Wow. Holy shnikes. This is going on my truck or on my computer or something. This is, jeez, dude. I can't say, grande gracias. I cannot say thank you enough. This is insane, and I am humbled and honored beyond, wow. Shiza! Wow, I don't even know what to say right now, except for Scott, you're awesome, and I love you guys, every single one, but Scott especially, at least right now, because this is incredible. Man alive. Well, you saw it here live, and incredible irony and timing as well, I guess. Well, there you have it, guys. I've been Jaime and Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. There's some new Fuego-tainment content on there, including most recently my review of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Drop Them. Yeah, no, Fantastic Beasts, the Crimes of Grindelwald, that's on there. I'm going to be doing some reviews of Wreck-It Ralph and Creed 2 coming up, and you know, some other Geek and Rewind and stuff like that. So look forward to more of that, along with a soon-to-launch Patreon, where if you want exclusive content before anybody else on Fuego-tainment, or if you have something that you would like me of the non-horrific variety to review, that's what the Patreon, you know, launching probably at the beginning of next year, in the year of 19, is going to be all about. So more importantly though, definitely need to check out the horror show here, where you were checking out this video. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't done that already. Hit that little bell for that ring ding dong, ring-a-ling ding ding dong. Keep the notifications ringing. That's right. So you get just that little heads up about any time there is a new Hail episode on a Tuesday or a Saturday, or all of the other just legions of things that we do on here. 2, sometimes 3 episodes a day of horror film reviews, trailer reactions, lots of convention coverage, video game Let's Plays. I know Cecil's been doing some Red Dead Redemption 2 lately. So, I mean, we like to consider ourselves not the best YouTube horror channel, but at least the most prolific. So, guess that's going to do it for the most recent episode of Hail to Stephen King. I'm still tripping out, Scott, about that gift, dude. You are the man. Holy shnikes, dude. Much, much love to you, man. Say thank you. Long days and pleasant nights to you. So, yes, that'll be all for today. I want to extend thanks for all of you here during this Thanksgiving week that we are in the midst of. Hail to Stephen King would be nothing without the Hail Ka-Tet that has kind of formed around this show as it's been going on, and you know, humbled and honored to have all of you along for the ride here. So I guess until the Wheel of Ka comes around once more, I say hasta luego, sin amigos and constant readers and viewers across the planet. I hope that we get to see one another sooner rather than later, and until that instance occurs, remember, stay scared and read Stephen King's Just After Sunset. Just after sunset. Just after sunset.